Look at
Okay.
that. I got it.
If you go to participants, you can
I
see.
just got it.
All right, cool. So we're going to focus on some lead generation systems. What else, guys?
CRM, same thing, right?
Yeah, we can talk. We'll touch on CRM. Sure. What else?
Um,
What else? What else?
what are some other big ones?
I would say buyer system,
Okay.
seller system,
Yeah, seller system.
um, money system, growth system, um, uh, kind of time system, which is like time blocking, basically. Okay. Um, lead generation is obviously a very broad one. I would encourage you to say like open house system or
Okay.
social
Yeah.
media system or
Social
uh,
media system.
door
Yeah.
knocking system, something like that, right?
Yeah. I'd like to do a social media system if we could.
Okay. All right, cool. Let's get started. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so what I want to do is let's kind of start like 50,000 feet and then we'll get a little bit more refined. Okay. Um, there is the lead generation strategies, and then there's basically what happens when it works, right? So open houses, let's say, what do I do on Monday to prepare for the open house? What do I do on Tuesday to prepare for the open house? What do I do on Wednesday to prepare for the open house? That's kind of like the pre-system, if you will. Then you have to think about, well, what even is an open house? Like, where do I put my signs? How many do I buy? What color balloons do I have? Do I bring coffee and donuts, cookies, or any of that kind of thing? Like, am I doing it by myself or am I doing it alone? Do I have a sign-in sheet? Is it on an iPad? Is it on a sheet of paper? Like, there's a lot to think about, and I'm going to encourage you to get super intentional about how you do that, right? We can talk about best practices and all that stuff, but then part of the other part of the system, of course, is when somebody shows up, what do you do? What do you do when you're standing there in front of them? Do you tour the house with them, or do you kind of let them go into the rooms by themselves, right? What do you do immediately after they leave? What do you do the following Monday to say thank you? Or do you do a handwritten note? Do you send them a video text? Do you put them onto a drip of some sort, right? When do you invite them in for a buyer consult? So there's everything ought to be very, very systematized. And the goal, there's really two primary goals with systems, okay? One is you're essentially building a operations manual for your business. Remember, you are a business owner, okay? If you were to buy, let's say, a Subway, they're going to show you exactly how to do it, okay? The lettuce goes in this container, and above it goes the mayonnaise, and to the right of it goes the tomatoes. I mean, it is planned out to like perfectly, right? You start this bread before you start this bread. It's got to be at this temperature for this long, right? This is how you determine how much tuna goes on the sandwich, which drives me insane, by the way. Like, come on, just throw me a glob of tuna on, for crying out loud. Don't give me like 1.5 of those scoops, right? But that's a system. So does your business have systems, right? So the reason why we do it is ultimately so that we can say to somebody, here's the system, this is your job now, right? And I'm being a little casual, but it's like, hey, in order to be successful in your job, these are what you need to do. This is the manual, right? Read through this. I'll see you at lunchtime and we'll talk we'll answer any questions you have. And then this is how I'm going to judge whether you're being successful or not. This is how frequently we'll talk about it. And I'm so excited to get into business together, right? My very first time I had a job, I got a job. I ran the reservations office for a fine dining restaurant in the mountains in Colorado. And I said, he's like, do you know how to do this? I said, no. And he says, okay, come in on Sunday. I'll teach you everything you need to know. At the end of the day, Sunday, he said, okay, you got it? I said, I think so. He says, great. The more we talk, the worse you're doing. I was like, whoa. That's not good leadership. Okay. Very poor leadership. So as you're building your business, you're also going to be building your growth system, right? How am I getting to be a better mentor and leader as time goes on? Because if you do what I tell you to do and you make all these calls and you build your business, it ain't going to be long before you wake up one day and you say, Bill, I'm slammed. I need help. Okay, great. Well, you better be a good leader by that time or nobody's going to want to hang out with you all day. Right? So we need to be getting smarter as time goes on. Okay. The other reason why we build these systems is so, number one is so that they can ultimately become somebody else's job. And number two is so that all of your people, all of your prospects and all of your clients can have that similar experience, right? So like if I've got one client, I don't want to like shower this person with like, level 20 service. But if in 3 months I'm busy and I don't have enough time to give the full explanation of a due diligence period, you kind of get the crappy version of the due diligence period explanation. You see what I'm saying? That's why we have systems. You follow that? So I'm going to give you guys a system that that actually Ethan and I spent a minute talking about this yesterday. One more thing before that. I want you to think about this line right here. Can you guys see that okay? No, that definitely doesn't help. Okay. I want you to think about this as by the way, I'm saving y'all's profit share by not flipping another piece of paper here. Okay. I want you guys to think about this as the lifespan of a real estate transaction. Okay. This dot is when the guy closes or the woman closes. Okay. Now, that's a dotted line. And that's a solid line. Okay. I want you to think about there's kind of 3 phases to the process. Okay. Let me let Charleston in. Okay. This phase is lead generation. This phase is follow-up. And this phase, if this is the closing, the average consumer is going to spend somewhere between 7 and 12 weeks. 7 and 12 weeks in between or immediately prior to the sale getting serious. Okay. So you're creating the lead here in the open house or the social media or the door knocking or whatever it is. They're not quite ready to do anything, especially if you find them online. The incubation time for an online lead is usually around a year to a year and a half, right? So there's a ton of follow-up, right? Giving them what they want, meeting them, introducing them to the lender, all that stuff. And then at one point, roughly 7 to 10 weeks before they close, they say, oh, I'm ready, let's meet. Oh, found a home. Make sense? And then this requires a system. So I won't go, I'm not going to turn this into a command class, but there are ways to automate basically all of this stuff within command. Okay, you can automate all the smart plans and campaigns and whatnot. You can automate lead accelerators. And then this is transaction management basically, right? Through opportunities and moving them through the various stages and phases and setting all that up in a custom way. Just a quick plug, tomorrow from 12 to 1. Tracy, you're welcome to come to this if you'd like. 12 to 1 tomorrow is a session where our success series, we're going to have Sam Jackson. Sam is the Director of Innovation and Technology for the Georgia Legacy Group. We're going to get to know him for a few minutes, and then he's going to tell us all his favorite things about command, and there'll be some Q&A at the end. Okay? So each of these needs to have systems, right? So how do I find the people? How do I nurture the people? And then how do I serve the people and execute on all the promises that I've made? Okay, so I'll tell you my way of doing this, and this is prior to command, and I haven't exactly figured out how I want to blend this into command, but I want to give you the kind of the theory behind it. Okay, now I want you to pretend like this is a sheet of paper. Can y'all see that? What I did is I have been talking to you guys about the importance of developing a pipeline. By the way, a pipeline is another system. Y'all follow that? Anything that you happen to do more than a couple of times ought to become a system. Make sense? So let's say anytime that you go to coffee with a local vendor, okay, there's a system around that, right? Do you send the guy a handwritten note? That's step one. Step two is a week later, or step two is you add him a friend on Facebook or something, right? Step three is you spend a week trying to send a piece of business to him, right? Intentionally. Hey, my goal this week is to send the gutter guy a gutter prospect, right? I'm going to try to be intentional about that, because if I'm intentional and I support him in his business, he's going to support me, right? Maybe I tag him on social media and say, hey, I had a great call with this, tile guy today. Oh my gosh, look at the last house he did a tile job on. Isn't that awesome? Tag everyone, right? So you're intentional about it. It's a system. I have, I don't, I'm friends with most of you guys online, and I have a system with or it's really my assistant's system. But every day she goes on LinkedIn, and everyone that has a work anniversary or happy birthday or a new job or whatever, she always says, hey, congratulations, whatever, right? It's important that that gets done, in my opinion. It's just not, I have higher priorities. I have better uses of my time. I'm not trying to minimize that, of course, but part of my job is to make sure all the things that I find to be important, no matter what level of importance, are taken care of, right? If that's my job, it'll never get done. That's why I need her to remind me that it needs to get done, right? Um, and she has a checklist of every single thing she's supposed to do every single day, so nothing slips through the cracks. A checklist is another system, right? So when I go to coffee with a vendor, do I have a checklist for all the things that I need to do, right? And eventually you will be building an operations manual and truly a business. Make sense? Okay, so there's two kind of tools here. Okay, this is the pipeline, and this we're just going to call like a sheet. Okay, so the pipeline, what my recommendation to you guys has been, is take the number of homes that you'd like to sell in the next 12 months, triple it, and that should be the number of people that you aim to put into your pipeline. The pipeline should be people that you have had a most likely a meeting with, or at least a great conversation with, and you have a feeling like you will get paid in the next 12 months if you continue to follow up with them and execute on all the promises you've made. Okay, so that list is not a database. This is a system, and this is a very it's like a summary of your hottest leads. Okay, so it has a rank, it has a name, and just so you don't have to go into the database every time, it could have the cell number. Okay, the rank is basically how quickly are you going to get paid. This is a person that's going to be buying or selling in the next 60 days, or 120 days, or 270 days, or 365 days. And based on how quickly the urgency, you can determine how you're going to approach that person. So if my goal for you guys is to have triple the number of units that you want to sell in the next 12 months in your pipeline by the end of the year. So I'm not looking at your number, Ebony. Let's just say your number is 20. You should have 60 people in the pipeline. I guarantee you, if you have 60 people in the pipeline and you continue to lead generate every day, you will sell way more than 20 homes next year. Okay. So we want to create a pipeline. Now, prior to the person getting on the pipeline, I would say, I used to do this on a sheet of paper. If I had a conversation with somebody and there was a promise made, okay, I'm going to send you some homes. I'm going to connect you with the lender. I'm going to, I'm going to introduce you to it for a refinance, whatever it is, right? I'd write their name, their number, their email. I'd write the date. And this is, this is just what I did, okay? I'd write the date that we talked in the corner. And then I'd write down all the stuff that I learned about this person, right? Ultimately, all this stuff can go into contacts and command into your CRM or whatever, right? Nowadays, I would just take a picture of it and send it to my assistant, and she'd deal with it all, right? But if they tell me what their cat's name is, I write it down. If they tell me their daughter goes to Georgia Tech, I write it down. If they tell me they have a second home in Hilton Head, I write it down. If they say their uncle's name is Steve, I write it down. Right? Everything I can figure out about them goes here. Okay. Once I think I'm going to get paid, okay, I would give them a folder, just a regular manila folder, okay? Now, not everyone deserves a folder, all right? So I would have a stack of these, and as soon as I felt like I was going to get paid, then I gave you a folder. And then all the sheets and all the research and all the stuff I was doing for you went in the folder. So if Joe Schmo called, I got him in my database because he belongs there, of course. And I got it connected through Google to my phone. So I know if Rhonda Mapp calls me, then I can mentally prepare to be on the phone with her, right? And if I'm not mentally prepared to be on the phone with her, then I'm going to let it go to voicemail, and then I'm going to go get my file. I'm going to study up on it. Then I'll call her, right? You don't have to answer the phone every time. God, that when I stopped answering the phone, my whole life changed. Thanks for laughing, Ebony. Okay. And once I felt like I was going to get paid, they got a folder. Then I had a folder of everyone that didn't earn a folder yet. Okay. And then when I was 5 minutes early to a meeting, I just thumbed through this and looked to see if there was somebody that I could call and re-engage, right? So that is a way to keep track of everybody. I personally am a tiny bit resistant to having everything electrical. And the only reason I say that is because it's just easy to, I'm not going to say lose it, but if I've got my pipeline electronic, I cannot look at it for a week. That's not going to help me. That pipeline needs to be staring me in the face all day long.
Bill, I have a question.
Yeah.
So with the folders, and I think I missed it, you said you create a folder for everyone who you feel that you're going to get paid for. What specifically is going into that folder again?
So it's going to start out with just that one sheet of paper, right? And then as time progresses, it might include like some of the listings that I showed them,
Oh,
or like tax reports from the listings that I showed them, or it could include their pre-approval letter, or it could include, a seller's disclosure statement from one of the properties they liked, or a flyer from one of the homes we saw, that kind of stuff. Okay. So again, if you
I
took,
like that.
if you followed every piece of advice I ever gave you, you would be overwhelmed. You got to find your system. The best system is the one you use. Okay. Um, so as soon as I felt like they were to some level of urgency, they went into the pipeline. Okay. So the goal is, this is basically your thermostat, if you will, right? How many times am I going to get paid in the next 12 months, right? So if you're new to the business and you got like two people that might do something in the next 12 months, I got to be really blunt with y'all. You need to get back on the phone. It's not enough, okay? Because everyone's dealing with life, okay? They may not have their job. They may have a different job. They may have a different spouse, right? The person that bought my townhome last summer, actually the summer before, or I'm sorry, in the spring, in April, the summer before, looked at the house with his wife, and they seemed to be pretty interested, and at the last minute they backed off. Okay. She calls me at Christmas time, the agent, and says, "Hey, I'm coming back." I said, "Oh, they changed their mind," and say, "Well, they got divorced, but he really likes the home, and he came back and bought it." Okay. Isn't that nuts? So the system is, how do I keep track of all these things? Because if Rhonda Mapp is going to buy a $400,000 home, but she doesn't want to talk to me until next February, if I don't stay in touch with that, that is $12,000 that I let somebody else earn. Is there anybody on this call that would not benefit from $12,000 right now? Do not let this stuff slip through the cracks. That's how you build systems to prevent that. Make sense? So an example of, let's just take social media for a second. Okay. Tracy, I'm going to repeat a few things that we talked about a few minutes ago. Okay. So what do I think a social media system is? Well, let's start with one generalized idea. I hate to say it to you guys. Okay. If I'm your friend or colleague, I actually don't really care if you have a new listing. I'm sorry to say that. I don't care, right? If I'm your friend and colleague and you're an insurance person, are you going to post a picture every time you get a new client? Like, I kind of think that's like, I get it. We're a different breed. Okay. I get it. But they don't really care about your new listing. If I'm not in the market for a home, I could care less if you have a new listing in Stone Mountain. Okay. As your friend, I want to give me something that's important to me. Hey, interest rates are here. If you don't have an interest rate of this, you should call me, right? Or, hey, now might be a great time to buy an investment property. Here's an example of one that I helped a client buy, right? Hey, you're looking to do a new deck on your home since people are spending more time at their home. ABC Deck Company just did this deck for a client. Isn't it beautiful, right? Some type of engagement that is simply not a billboard for what you're doing great in life, right? What is it? Why, how are you going to stop the scroll? You're going to stop the scroll by giving the people something that's particularly important to them, specifically important to them. Y'all follow that? I'm not trying to be offensive. Congratulations on your new listing, seriously. But it needs to be, you've got to give people something slightly different than that. Okay? What's in it for them? What business did you support today, right? Did you have a great experience at a certain company? Did you have a great experience working with a particular vendor? Let's share that. Let's keep it positive. Hopefully it goes without saying, but since we're talking about social media, please take a moment to review your social media. I'm not speaking to anyone in particular. Whoever watches this video, do not have pictures of you taking, keg stands and, talking about Democrats and talking about Republicans and talking about blah, 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 blah. Okay. I'm not telling you not to be an individual. I'm just telling you there's a lot of people that might say, oh, you like Trump? I ain't working with you. Or you don't like Trump? I'm not working with you. Right? I didn't want to wear a mask. Okay. Well, I don't like you anymore. I mean, we got some crazy people out there. All right. Just be a professional, please. Just be a professional. Okay. Just let me know if I'm on my soapbox for too long. Okay. Now, let's talk about social media. So what is the commitment that you want to make? Are you committed to social media? Like, don't start a blog and then be a fantastic blogger for 4 days and then you get tired of it. That doesn't come off well. Okay. So only do this if you're ready to commit to this. Do I have the content? Do I have the desire? And do I have the commitment level? Do I have the time? Right? So what do you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for social media? And I'll just throw some ideas out there. Okay. Maybe one day is for testimonials. Maybe one day is to support a local vendor, a local business. Maybe one day is some market news, right? Maybe one day is some market statistics. Maybe one day is sharing some information about like local events happening. Oh, there's a little beer festival. Oh, there's an art festival. Hey, here's a cool Zoom class that I got access to. Here's an inspirational quote, right? These kind of things. So every Monday, people should expect to see something. Every Tuesday, people should expect to see something else. See what I'm saying? That's a system. Then you could say, okay, virtual assistant, here's the standard for the Bill Linkwold real estate organization. Every Monday we do this. Every Tuesday we do this. Every Thursday we do this, right? So I like, for example, I sent her a list of about 40 different websites that I would get real estate news from. And I said, here's the websites. She bookmarked all of them. And I said, I want you to post a piece of real estate news every single day. And she doesn't do this so much anymore, but she would do this and she'd send me the article ahead of time. I'd look at the headline and say, go. Or I'd look at the headline and say, no, I don't like that. You see what I'm saying? And then we had a system. We kept doing it over and over and over again. A system, by the way, is leverage. Okay. People, technology, and systems are the forms of leverage. Okay. And you can create leverage in each of the segments of this process. So for example, a system might be deal goes under contract. What do we do now? Okay. So we make some changes within command. We change their where their like a little box or whatever is located within opportunities. We might send the contract to the attorney. That's step one. Send the contract to the lender. Maybe that's step two. We send an email out to the other side saying, congratulations, here's a copy of all the executed agreements. These are the dates that I have recorded down for all the deadlines, right? Due diligence period ends this day. Earnest money is due this day. Financing contingency is this day. If I made the counts wrong, please let me know, right? So that's a system. You send the same thing to the buyer. I have a note on the file to say, all right, next step. Remember, we don't want to ever end a call with a prospect or especially a client without saying something that sounds like this. Okay, Ebony, here's what you can expect next. Here's what will happen next. Okay, so next, we're going to bring over the termite guy and he's going to do his thing. We're going to bring over the radon guy and he's going to do his thing. We're going to bring over a home inspector and we'll get the report back in 2 days. Then we'll huddle and talk about the things that you're most concerned about. Then we'll write a document called the Amendment to Address Concerns of the Property, which highlights the request that you have. And then it's probably going to take them a couple days to review that and price it out. Then we'll get it back, right? It's like when you prepare somebody for things, everything is just easier, right? If you don't prepare them for what might happen if the appraisal comes in low, when they come in low, they're looking for everyone to blame, particularly you, right? If you let them know that, hey, this happens every once in a while, right? It's not that I did something wrong or you did something wrong. It's just part of the process. So you're protected. And if you don't want to buy the home, fine. Here's how you get out of the contract. And here's how we might resolve the issue. And then they might have a little anxiety around that. But then when you call them and say, hey, by the way, the appraisal came in, we're good. They're like, whew. See what I'm saying? Systems. There is checklist. I have a buyer checklist and a seller checklist in the Google Drive. And I can't recall exactly, but I think if it's bold, it was an indication that the assistant did it. My assistant did it. If it was not bold, it was something that I was supposed to do. Okay. And then, are you heading out? Okay. 2 seconds. Congratulations. Awesome. Welcome aboard. All right. I'll give you a ring because I want to spend a little time talking about next steps, PC coaching, and kind of helping you with the transition.
Oh, thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Makes sense? All right. What are you hearing so far? I've been doing most of the talking. What are you hearing so far?
I think this is kind of like organizing ourselves in various different ways. And if you have that platform and if you have that foundation of exactly what it is that you need to do step by step, it just makes it easier. Like all of this, I'm like, oh, duh, thank you. So I like it. I absolutely like it. I love the social media. I'm looking at the buyer system and I'm taking notes because it helps me to process as well what's my next step, because it's not only about them, and especially as a new agent, as they're learning, I'm learning. So
That's right.
this is good.
And so like later today at 4 o'clock, remember, we're going to be doing the buyer presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we sit down, you don't just show up at the door or at the market center, right? There's some preparation that goes into that, right? So is there anything unique about this buyer, right? Have they been like Have they had a certain energy around how our conversations have gone? Do I think that they're going to bring up a particular objection? Do I think they're going to be abrasive in some way? Do I think that they're going to be unrealistic with pricing? Right. So whatever I have I've got inclinations from our discussions, then I can prepare with a system to address that ahead of time. Right. So, so I might bring out a graph that says, 35% of homes are selling right now at list price or above list price. So we'll talk about this later, but I'd say, hey, let me show you this graph. This is showing us that over a third of properties are selling at list price or above list price. And in fact, in your price range, let's say we're looking at a $275,000 home, it's actually more like 45%. If I take you to the home that's for you, right, the perfect match, would you be prepared to pay list price or more for this property? Now, I'm not suggesting you overpay. I'm just suggesting you might, this is what you may have to do to win, right? You might have to enter into a multiple offer situation. If you don't prep your buyer for multiple offer situation at the consultation, they may not trust you when the time comes to get into that later on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So you need to make sure that you're having those dialogues ahead of time. So, because when you tell them something's coming, they're prepared for it. Let's say, for example, you were on a roller coaster, okay, and you got a young child on the roller coaster, and you didn't tell the young child that the thing went upside down. You think he'd be pissed off at you at the roller coaster if you didn't tell him that was coming? Okay. But if you told them, like my daughter, for example, would be like, is it coming yet? Is it coming yet? She'd be like excited about it. It'd be fun. It'd be a fun experience, right? Think about, you ever do the trust walks, right? We used to do this in Bold, where it's like, okay, 2 steps with your right leg, 2 steps with your right leg. Okay, duck, right? Sometimes your buyer or your seller they're basically blind, right? They're not in this business all day long. They don't necessarily know all the things that are going on. Our job is to put our arms around their shoulders and be like, hey, I'm not going to tell them they're blind, but you got to treat them like that sometimes. Hey, you're not in the trenches every day. I am. Here's what you need to watch out for, right? Okay, we're going to put on our rain boots today. You see what I'm saying? Okay. What questions do you guys have so far?
I love the whole system thing, Bill. Do we have that's one thing I really want to do is sit down, and I'm a checklist person.
Yep.
Check, check, check. I got this, even the teeny tiniest little things, like make sure you turn off your utilities if you're a seller or whatever. So do we have a starting list?
I have one. I put one in the Just PC in the Google Drive.
Okay.
I'll pull it up here in just a second with a buyer checklist.
Yeah.
Basically, it's it was everything from we just used the example like the deal goes pending or the deal goes binding. Okay, the contract here. We do this. We send this note. We do a handwritten note. Maybe we drop off a small gift to congratulate them. I heard on was it Bold the other day where they had just like the coolest. Oh man, if you guys haven't watched that Coach's Corner with Jess Starr from Connecticut, ooh, man, I would hire her to be my realtor in Roswell because she's a hell of a lot better than me. She was awesome. She was awesome. She's like, oh, we were gonna do a movie event, right? We couldn't do the movie event because of COVID. So I gave all of my people like a month free to Disney Plus. And then we all watched it at the same time and we're on Zoom together. I mean, it's just like, man, there's just so many creative ways to love on people, right? What's your system for events? Okay, so the event is in March. Okay, what do you do in January? What do you do in April? What do you do in February? What do you do in December to plan for that, right? When do you get the vendors involved? Do you hire the photographer? When do you negotiate the price of popcorn and all that kind of stuff, right? It's everything is a system. So Liz, short answer to your question is yes, we do have systems. We do have a lot of checklists. There's tons of stuff on KWU. There's tons of stuff on KW Command. The vast majority, pretty much all Facebook groups have a file section. So if you were to go into like Lab Code Agents or Keller Williams or something like that and go to their file section, you can search for checklist, let's say, and you'll probably get 50 different versions of buyer checklist that could give you some ideas. Okay.
Do we still have access to, once Bold ends, today is the last day of Bold, do we still have access to all of that just in case we wanted to go back?
Yeah. What they did last year or last couple months ago was they gave everyone access for, I want to say it was like 60 days afterwards.
Okay.
Everything was live, and there's another Bold starting in October. So my hunch is they will cut that off in October and then start back up again.
Okay.
Okay. This is just kind of an example. Let me try to share my screen really fast with you guys. All right. Can you all see it? Okay, you see this? All right, can y'all see that?
Yeah, it's black for me right now.
Not yet.
All right, there we go. See it?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so this is, I'll just walk through a couple of these things right here. This is back when we had green sheets and dot loops, so I haven't updated it perfectly, but like buyer intake sheet, right? So I'm on the phone, I'm making my calls or whatever, I got a buyer intake sheet, right? It prompts me to ask all the appropriate questions I want to ask. Okay, so that's an action. Then the next column is why or in, yes or no. Did I do it? Yes or no. There's not any gray area. Okay, the date that I did it and any notes. Okay, this was a shared doc for every single file we had. Okay, now sheet, no, that's something different. Okay, so if it was in regular font, I did it. If it was in bold font, she did it. My assistant did it, right? And so every day she was sending me all of the like active prospects, active clients, and she would go in and she'd give me like the next 4 or 5 things that each client needed, right? Because if you're juggling a lot of clients, one could be sitting down for the appointment, one might be doing the final walkthrough, one might be negotiating contracts. So you got various things going on with various clients all at once, right? So how are you going to keep all that stuff straight, right? If you only have one file at a time, I got to be honest with you, you're not going to make enough money. You're gonna have to use systems in order to help more than one person at a time. Okay. Now, so add buyer to the database with all the categories, right? Did I schedule a buyer seminar? And then she sends out all the prompts to get the VBA signed. Then we create a Google Drive file for the client. So we had it in .loop or DocuSign or whatever, but we always downloaded a secondary copy and stored it in the cloud somewhere. And then once a week, she would take the cloud and back that up to a personalized external hard drive that she kept in the Philippines, right? So we were super safe with our data, right? Then we created, added to a tracker form. We set up an auto search. We sent out a lender introduction, first day out, offer submission, binding agreement, video congratulations, update all the files. So it's like, blow your nose, go to the restroom, wash your hands. It's that important. It's that important. You see what I'm saying? So that's the kind of stuff that you should have a plan to build, right? You're going to work with more than one buyer, so we need a system around that. So what do we do during the phase of the transaction management? And what, if any of that, can we auto or what do you call it? Automate, right? I'll give you another example for listings, okay? Listings, we want to make sure that, if you've had a listing and, the termite guy needs to get into the property and you don't want to meet the termite guy out there. Well, the termite guy doesn't have a super lockbox like a real estate agent does. They get into the home using something called a CBS code or CBS code, I'm sorry. Okay. But the CBS code is different for every lockbox. So if you've got a couple of listings and they're like 9-digit numbers or something, so you're not going to memorize them. So we created like a seller info page. So it had like the wife's name, the husband's name, both people's email addresses, both people's numbers, the CBS code, all the important dates, right? Who was the lender, who was the buyer's agent, who was the closing attorney, all their contact information. And we had a separate Google Drive or separate Google file for every, Google Doc, I should say, for every file. And it was all, we were both able to pull it up at any time from any location, including our cell phone. That's a system. Follow? Now, Command takes care of a lot of this. I mean, I was doing real estate a long time ago, and we didn't have access to such a powerful tool, right? So, for example, when a seller sells, well, the address that I always knew was associated with them, they don't own that place anymore. So one of the steps should be changing the address, right? When a buyer buys, the home that they were under contract for needs to become their new address, and the home they used to rent needs to go away. You see what I'm saying? Now I want to take them out of the rental tag because rental information isn't going to be relevant for them anymore, and put them onto the I just purchased a home file in 2020, which means in January I need to send you a note to do your homestead exemption, right? So now I've been thinking of you all throughout time as this like renter who is going to buy in March, and in a split second you become a homeowner that now has a new series of things that need to happen for you. By the way, if I botch that, it just shows that I'm not paying attention. And it just shows that I'm not systematized. And I got to tell you, all this is your job until you pay somebody to relieve you of some of these jobs. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Think about it like a restaurant, okay, that's famous for a certain type of appetizer, okay? It's got to be made the same way every single time, or they'll be like, whoa, this don't taste like it did last week. I brought my friend here because the appetizer is so good and the appetizer sucks today. Who's back there making it? Right? Oh, well, they didn't have a recipe. Well, recipe's a system. What are you hearing?
Bill, I have a question for you.
Oh my God.
Oh.
It feels so amazing. Either I totally bought something and everyone had a question at the same time, or the most engaged everyone's been since we started. That was awesome. All right, Tawantis, go first.
Okay, guys. Sorry. Bill, so I have a question for you. When you set up your system, and I'm hearing how everything is set up and you have it all organized at this point, what was your determining factors that you use to implement bringing in other people initially for you? What phase or processes did you say, okay, look, I got to go ahead and get this out first because this is going to make me work faster? How did you go about determining like what was going to get outsourced in a sense first for you, and at what point of production level did you feel like that made sense?
That's a great question. I'm really grateful that you asked that question. I'm going to give you a bit of a short answer for that. Okay. Here's the thing. You guys have heard me say this a lot of times. We only have two things: time and money. And every single thing that comes across your plate, every task that you are asked to do, okay, from taking out a buyer to dropping your kids off at school to mowing the grass, any of that stuff, okay, you can either use your time to take care of it, or you can use your money to take care of it. Is that fair to say? So if somebody elects to paint their house themselves, they either are a professional painter, they get some kind of weird satisfaction from it, or they're trying to save money. Is that fair to say? Now, I haven't mowed a grass since I was 12, and I'm not about to start, okay? Because I don't get any satisfaction from it. I don't have any of the right tools, and I have no interest in it. And thank God I can afford to pay somebody for it. Does that make sense? So if you ask me, I probably started paying people to help me way before most people did. Because if you ask me what's more important, time or money, 90% of the time it was time. Okay. And so I was extra stingy with my time, and I was a little looser with the money. Does that make sense? So, I did not follow the model. The fact of the matter is I didn't really know the model because I wasn't at KW. Okay. But what ended up happening for me, I'll give you a real brief story of my business is, so I got my license in 05, kind of got really going in 06. In 07 and 06, I went on a lot of appointments, okay? And I was getting better and better at my presentation. I was getting better and better at sharing the news of the market and closing and all that. The trouble is the market started to suck. And all of these people, they liked me, but they didn't like any of the information I was sharing, right? So I'd sit down with a seller who, let's say, wanted to sell their home for 300, and there wasn't a piece of evidence in the universe that supported that. The evidence supported a price of, let's say, 240. They liked me. I had good rapport with them. I had good energy. They were friendly people. We just weren't going to get together on the deal because we were way apart, right? And so I sat there. I said, well, how can I help you? Because you ain't selling it for 300. You and I both know that, right? You're not in a financial stress situation, so you're not going to foreclose. You're not going to do a short sale, right? So what should we do? So we ended up renting a lot of these houses. So I helped these people as like a landlord's agent, and they became default landlords because they couldn't sell the home for what they wanted. And at the height of it all, I think I had 32 landlords that I was in business with. Okay. So there was like, I had 5, 6, 7 landlord listings all at once. I was literally getting like 25 leads a day from all these people that wanted to rent homes. Okay. And so if I had done a listings-based business to start with, my first pain point probably would have been admin. That's why the model says go hire an admin first. My first pain point was the showings, right? Now, on the personal note, I got married in 2008. I wanted to obviously spend time with my wife. And back when the market was just starting to get a little bit better is when our first daughter was born. So I didn't want to be out all night showing homes and every weekend showing homes. So like my personal situation helped me kind of decide, am I going to lean more towards the money side or am I going to lean more towards the time side? You see what I'm saying? So my first need was I cannot physically handle all these incoming leads anymore, and I cannot show all these properties. Yet there's money. Every time the email comes in, that's money. It's a family that needs help and they don't have somebody to help them at the moment, right? So I walked into the Ignite room. This is 8 or so years ago. And I said, I went up to Kathy Woods, who's the broker down at Pushy Road, who was in our office at the time. And I said, who's the smartest person in here? And Kathy goes, she is. Pointed to Pam Sliger. I said, Pam, come with me. And I said, you're a new agent. I know exactly what you need. You need leads and support. I'm going to give you both. Here's what I need. I need somebody to handle all these leads. Okay. You can have 100% of what you earn when you help them rent. Okay. You can keep them in your database. All I want is a list of everyone I send you, and I want to be able to look at what's going on with all those people whenever I ask. And the first time they do a transaction, I'll take 25%. Beyond that, they're all yours. Fair? Fair. We've been working together ever since. Make sense? Now,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said that with that, she was able to keep 100% of what it is that she made.
Yeah, because it's not much. It's like $300 here,
Yeah,
there.
But when you said you get 25%, that's is if they transition into
Buyer.
home, like okay, so like a referral.
Exactly.
Okay, okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah, everything's negotiable, right? When you enter into a negotiation, the first question is, what's important to you? What's important to you, right? This is only going to work if it's a win-win, right? If we're trying to negotiate something and I'm trying to get my way and I'm not willing to give you anything, it's not going to end well, right? Unless you need to buy this home like today and you got no other prospects, right? So to answer your question, Tawantis, I was probably in the neighborhood of around 20 to 25 sales a year when I started to get help. The the research suggests you could probably push it more towards around 36. But I was willingly sharing my profits so that I could rebuy my time, if that makes sense. Most people don't even take the
Yep.
time enough to step back and think about what's more important to them, time or money, right? So I would encourage, you got to think about that too. What's a system for money? A system for money would be a budget. Do you have a personal budget? Do you have a business budget? Do you have a P&L? Do you meet with a financial advisor or a tax attorney or a CPA each week, or not each week, but maybe each quarter or twice a year or once a year? Do you get any type of consultation? Are you learning about money? Do you have a system for learning about money? Right? Another thing would be, it kind of works with goals, right? If I have a goal, let's say I want to buy an investment property within 12 months. Okay. What do I do next? Well, I need to think about how much I need to save. Well, what does that mean? I need to put away, $400 this month and $400 the next month. And, I want to buy in an area that I'm somewhat unfamiliar in. So maybe I'll go find an agent that can help me in a particular area so I can have an expert, right? Like I think, personally, I think the Beltline is going to be the coolest thing ever. But it's not quite the coolest thing today, right? But I don't know squat about that. So I'm going to go find somebody who knows it and I'll pay them because they know what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? So if you don't understand something, don't be afraid to bring somebody in to share what they know. All right. So Tawantis, what ended up happening is Pam started helping me with a lot of showings. I never truthfully transitioned to a fully focused listing business. I was always more focused on the buyer side. And I finally brought on an assistant when I noticed that the list of projects that I wanted to do but never got around to doing was just getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And I was basically an agent from 8 in the morning to 8 at night, and I was my assistant from 8 at night until I couldn't stay awake anymore. And I was like, I'm done with this crap. And I said, I've got the cash. I need somebody else to manage this for me. Right? So it's time and money. So if it's time and money, what's your system for time? What's your system for money? Right? So do you have a day each month where you download your bank statements and say, okay, well, spend a little bit more on groceries this month than normal, or hey, this unusual bill was what came, so we need to switch some stuff up financially. Do you have a strategy around that? And that way there's less surprises. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't really care whether gas was 150 or 250? Like, isn't it like a little stressful to not have money in the bank? So what do we need to do to alleviate that stress for you? We got the coolest gig ever. If we want to put 10 grand in the bank, all you got to do is make a certain number of calls and you'll book the appointment, you'll get the listing, and you'll sell the thing. Right? We've had 2 agents in this group in the last week go on their first listing appointment and get it. Okay. One of them was around $435,000, and the other one I think is around like 230-ish or so. Right? Those are some big checks they're going to get. Make sense? So What's a money system? A money system is a budget. A money system is evaluating all the dollars that come into your world each month and leave your world each month. Okay? It's a net worth calculator. Does anyone have a net worth page that they update regularly? Has anyone calculated their net worth? Obviously, you don't have to share it, but does anyone know what their current net worth is?
Mm-mm.
Charleston, Rhonda, Tawantas, Tracy, anyone?
Nope.
I sure don't.
Do you think
Oh,
that
no,
there's
no.
a potential that you would make decisions differently if you knew that number?
Sure.
Okay, so then the question becomes is, when are we going to spend the time necessary to get that type of clarity? Okay, if you guys knew me over the last couple of years, you would know, if you looked at my 401 for the last 3 years, you would know that net worth calculator was on there for a long time, way too long. And I finally did it. And I was worth a little bit more than I thought I was. And that allows me the mental space to make decisions a little bit differently, right? Because that will dictate, you know, am I a little more aggressive here financially? Am I a little bit more resistant to doing that? Am I able to afford a, you know, photography studio for my wife? These kind of things. You see what I'm saying? Okay, I cut a lot of people off earlier. Who else had some questions outside of Tawantis? We gave her she asked the tough question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else wanted to say something? All right. Did I answer everything?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll throw one more thing out there. Okay. I want you to think about a growth system. Okay. A growth system. What I mean by that is I have a document. Let me see where I put it. Okay. I have a document. It's called a growth plan. Okay. KW talks a lot about a growth plan. A growth plan kind of looks like this. You guys can see that. Okay. And what it says on here is basically month by month, January, February, March, April, right? What am I going to read? What am I going to listen to maybe? What am I going to attend? Right? What am I going to study? What am I going to teach? Right? So like every month, I strategically put something on this list that says, this month, I'm going to read this particular book, right? So I went and, you know, September's coming up. I went and purchased the books that I was going to read and that I had committed to reading in September. I went on Amazon and by the time they come, it'll be September. It's time to read them, right? So is there a particular topic that I want to learn more about in the month ahead? Do I want to learn more about, I don't know, life insurance? Do I want to learn more about a 1031 exchange? Do I want to learn more about property management, right? Am I getting intentional with any topic that might help me be a better agent, or maybe a better parent, or maybe a better sibling, or maybe a better father, right? I have on here, and you know, sometimes, most of the time it happens, but I'm not perfect. I said, you know, I want to ask each of my children what they'd like to learn about in September, right? Is there any topic you're curious about, right? So like, my daughter hasn't been too interested in it lately, but like a couple months ago, like all she wanted to talk about was like things that lived in the sea, right? So we got purposeful. We say, hey, you want to learn about the oceans? Cool. Let's study the oceans. So we watched some YouTube videos on studying the oceans, right? So I know a lot of crap about oceans now. And you know what? So does she. And there was quality time. But that stuff's not going to happen happenstance, guys. You got to get purposeful about it. So how do we do that? Well, we have a system. Beginning of the month, I ask her the question, what would you like to learn about? Okay, we're going to learn about it from 7 o'clock at night to 7:10. Okay, because that's when we're spending a lot of time together. I know it's like some of this kind of can come off like this dude is like a robot. But time's all you got, right? And if you waste your time, you're wasting money, you're wasting opportunity, you're wasting the ability to develop relationships. And so the thing I've used to mitigate the possibility that that could happen is getting super control around time. And then I have the ability to pull in successful people and talented people and help me build these things. Y'all follow all that?
Yes.
All right, was this helpful?
Yes.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. So thank you guys. I've got this is kind of the first time we had a little pop-up class like this. I'm happy to continue. I'm happy to go into more detail about a variety of systems. We can kind of comb through some of the stuff on the checklist. You know, I'm a sharer, right? I've learned a lot. I've built a lot. I've taken a lot, right? I'm just here to get it from here to there. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
All right. It's a pleasure working with y'all. I'll see you at 4. Tracy, you're
Thank you.
more than welcome to come.
See ya.
If you like, okay?
Okay.
All
I
right.
will. Thanks,
Y'all
Bill.
soon. Yep.
Okay.